Hi everyone, welcome to the March 2022 edition of Farsight's Human News, the remote viewing news forecast show that tells you what is going to happen, not what did happen. I'm Aziz Brown. Before I go on, let me tell you about our next major mysteries project. This is a project that you are all going to want to see, the Super Soldiers of Ceres. That is correct. Recently, there has been reports of people who have claimed to have been abducted by aliens and then thrown into slavery for a long time. The general idea is that they are Isbis, who are people in a physical body, and they are removed from their physical body and placed in what seems like clones of their original form. This transfer between bodies seems to be a common capability of the extraterrestrials generally. Then, these abducted people are placed into slavery for a defined period of time, circa 20 years, and eventually returned to their original bodies after the slavery experience. They claim that their memories were altered or erased, but that some memories were recoverable. When they are replaced in their original bodies, it is like they never left, but their personalities have been altered due to their experiences as slaves. Some of these abductees were used for all types of purposes, including as soldiers during this long time of slavery. This is the general idea of these reports. Now, we at Farsight are not endorsing any of these claims, but what has been so striking is that some of the reports are remarkably parallel to what we have been discovering about the activities of groups of oppressive extraterrestrials currently active on and near Earth. Out of curiosity mostly, a project was designed to investigate such claims, and in particular to investigate a highly detailed report made by Tony Rodriguez in his newly published book, Ceres Colony Cavalier. Well, it turns out that there is substance to these claims, according to our data, and we learned a lot more than what we bargained for when we did this project. You will really want to know what we found out. In mid-March, the project will be released on farsightprime.com. While you wait for the release, we want to suggest that you may want to read the book by Tony Rodriguez, Ceres Colony Cavalier. His report is incredibly blunt and highly detailed. He seems to be somewhat of an anomaly in that so many of his memories have come back. His book is available as an inexpensive paperback on Amazon. Again, we are not endorsing anyone. We just do our own work as remote viewers, and then show you our results. But reading his book would give you a good background for what we show you in mid-March, when we release our new mysteries project, the Super Soldiers of Ceres. For those of you who want personalized instruction in remote viewing, Princess Jeaneé is teaching remote viewing both individually and in groups. Our methods are sufficiently complex that we use pre-printed templates for our sessions, and Princess can work with you, individually or in groups, as you learn to use these methods as well. Our approach addresses a wide range of applications that we do here at Farsight, including investment evaluations and forecasting. We do lots of stuff that nobody else does, and it is a big subject. But for those of you who are interested, Princess will show you how we do what we do. Be patient in learning any of our methods. Nothing that we do was learned in a day. Also, understand that when Princess teaches you remote viewing, no one at Farsight gets any financial benefit from this. Princess does this entirely on her own. Remember, also, that there is a large collection of instructional videos on farsightprime.com. As our updated Seco Plus project is now fully operational, and we just published the results of 3 new Seco Plus projects in February 2022, information about this can be found on our website, farsight.org. Seco Plus stands for Contemporary Investigations of Cryptocurrency plus Other Opportunities. We focus on cryptocurrency opportunities as well as other high-tech related edgy projects. In our original Seco project, we investigated a group of cryptocurrencies that we feel will survive over 5 years based on probing for adoption using our specialized remote viewing procedures and methods of analysis. Those forecasts are available for free to see on YouTube, but the identities of the currencies are sold separately on our website, farsight.org. But the new Seco Plus project expands our investigations to also include certain cutting-edge technologies and other realms where unusual high-tech investments are being made. Basically, we want to use remote viewing to see which are the major elements that will reshape our future on this planet, including a continued major focus on cryptocurrencies, especially those which are currently inexpensive. We are searching for real game changers that many investors may want us to target. We continue to do these projects on a monthly basis, and we publish them regularly as our results come in and are finalized. As before, the forecasts are available for free, but the identities of the entities under investigation are sold on our website. Moreover, everyone who purchased our past Seco identities automatically receives our new Seco Plus forecasts at least through the end of 2022. And anyone who purchases our Seco Plus forecast identities will receive all of our past Seco identities as well as all the new Seco Plus forecasts at least through the end of 2022. There is no extra charge for this. We have been extending these free extensions for a number of years, and we hope to continue doing this in the future. But to be safe in this uncertain world, we promise only one extension year at a time. The crypto markets are down right now, and many people consider this to be a great time to purchase the more promising cryptocurrencies. Again, as with all of our economic forecasts of any type, including our Seco and Seco Plus forecasts, no one at Farsight is a licensed financial advisor, and we do this for entertainment and educational purposes only. Nonetheless, we feel that as we continue to do this, it will become increasingly difficult for people to doubt the reality of remote viewing. Also, we can really use your help if you share our YouTube content with your friends. Be sure to like our videos, but really try to click the share button and send our content to your friends. Word of mouth has always been the best way to spread really new ideas. Relying on institutions to make fundamental changes in our world is almost a contradiction in terms. Real change happens from the actions of people, not institutions. Institutions resist change. They always have and they always will. Since all of you are people, help us make the change happen. It's a people thing. Moving on, how do you hear about all of our activities that we do at Farsight so you can participate and get the latest when they happen, including our live streams? To start with, we use our email list and YouTube to make our major event announcements. So there are two things that you need to do. First, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and remember to click on the notifications bell that appears after you subscribed. That is the only way YouTube will notify you of the new events, especially our live stream events. Just subscribing doesn't actually do anything. The notification bell is the important part, but that only notifies you of things that we release on YouTube. To be notified about the things that we release on farsightprime.com, which you can watch using our Apple and Android apps on the web and also on your home TV, you need to subscribe to our free email newsletter found on our website at farsight.org. You can also allow our apps to notify you of our new releases on farsightprime.com. Be sure to do all three things. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Farsight, and then remember to click the notifications bell. And then subscribe to our free email newsletter that you can find on our website. And finally, go to the settings of our app and allow it to give you notifications of our new releases on farsightprime.com. The links for YouTube and our newsletter are in the description area below this video. And the app is, well, it's on your phone. Those are how we announce what we do. We never send out spam, and we never give our subscriber lists to anyone else for any purpose. Now, on to human news. Let's start by summarizing what happened last month with our February Human News program. We had a very interesting and highly successful month. The Ukraine invasion clearly dominated the news. The sessions by Shantae and myself clearly pointed to a major military attack on urban areas. Shantae even described how people were leaving the cities and seeking refuge outside of the cities. Smoke and destruction was everywhere in the sessions. Princess's session also described a major disaster with explosions in an urban area, with smoke and shaking land. Kahmia also described a situation in a snowy cold environment in which massive explosions occurred. Subjects are badly affected. Kahmia wonders if this could have been something like a volcano given the explosions, downward movement, and destruction. It is true that Mount Etna did have a major eruption in February, and indeed she may have perceived that in part of her session, blending in the Ukraine and Mount Etna events in one session. That sometimes happens. But in general, her report finds correspondence with the reports of others regarding Ukraine, with hell raining down from the sky. Basically, our remote viewers described various parts of the Russian invasion of Ukraine quite perfectly. The level of detail in some of these sessions is quite amazing. For those who may still be wondering if remote viewing is real, this is a good month to look at the results. When these sessions were done in January, there was no indication that such an invasion would have occurred in late February. All in all, it was a terrible event to happen in Ukraine, but a great set of remote viewing sessions described the event. Now, let's move on to this month's Human News forecast for March 2022. Remember, we could always be wrong, and all remote viewing sessions must be seen as an experiment, not a certainty. But look at the data for yourself, make your own decisions, and then let's watch the month roll out to see what actually happens. We have 5 remote viewers who participated in this month's project: Kahmia, Dunson, Intysam, Princess Jeaneé, Shantae, and myself. Now, remember that the invasion of Ukraine started in late February, and the date of most of these sessions are before that. For example, my own session for this month occurred on February 17th, well before the Ukraine invasion, which began on the 21st of February. So keep this in mind when you are seeing these sessions. These reports are amazing to watch. It is best if you just watch them for yourself without me trying to explain them in advance. So, let's begin our forecast for March 2022. I will return after all of the reports are presented to help pull everything together.
For my first visual, I have a lot of surface structures here. I have a big empty area that kind of looks maybe like a corridor or a community space. And then there's one structure that just looks way taller than all the other ones. So it kind of looks something like this. You got big structures here, all looking the same, like I said. Then there's some sort of like corridor here. Okay, big area. And then some sort of like larger structure right here. And it kind of looks not necessarily like there could be a big clock there or something, but like a big hole right here in a building that's just significantly larger than all the surrounding buildings. These do feel man-made structures, you know, and they do feel like they're made out of man-made and natural material. There are subjects here as well, but they seem to be kind of hidden in the back and like inside of structures. And then another thing is that there's a lot of energetics here that I'm feeling as well. And the energetics here are like scattered all around, so it's just like some energetics here, some energetics there, you know, some in the middle over here, and then they kind of, like, you can kind of feel them just going throughout the structures in between, above all the other structures. These energetics are just super like expanding outwards. I'm smelling a lot of smoke and heat and burning here. I hear just like, it almost sounds like a ringing noise, like dead silence. And then I also see that there is some sort of non-surface structure here, kind of just up here. Okay. For my second visual, I again see these structures here, okay? They're all kind of, like I said, in this open space or area surrounding it. This feels like a community of some sort. People live here. And then again, that like larger structure that kind of sits point blank, like in the middle. Okay. So then there's also this non-surface structure here, like I said, and it feels like something drops from this non-surface structure and hits right here. And from there, it kind of starts expanding outwards like this. There's a lot of energetics here, a lot of smoke here, and it starts to just fill up like the whole area. This whole area is covered in smoke. The subjects here, like the ones that are right here in this remote area, they feel, honestly, they feel dead and they feel unconscious and injured. It almost feels like this burning sensation in my chest, and then it expands, and then it just like ceases to exist. And that's kind of what feels like is happening to these subjects here. This non-surface structure, it is smooth and man-made. It is this black gray color. There are no subjects inside of here. It feels like that this non-surface structure is actually remote controlled, and someone else is operating, from somewhere remote, but not necessarily saying right here in this surrounding area. And yeah, that's kind of just what's happening in my second visual now. I hear just again a lot of just like rumbling and silence. It just seems like everything stands still or ceases to exist. And just overall this feeling of a big hole that's expanding and destruction that just happens right here in this area. For my last visual, I see a lot more kind of structures around. So it looks like this. Okay. Something like that, okay? You can just imagine that this is the top of some buildings, this is the top of some buildings, and then like everything kind of in here, per se, is that common area that's more open, In this more open area, I see this big mushroom cloud. It looks like this. And then comes up into here. And then just like expands out. This feels like some sort of bomb that definitely hits here. So it feels like something is dropped by this non-surface structure, and as soon as it hits the ground, like it obliterates everything in its path. I do sense like this feeling of being nervous and scared, but honestly, it definitely stops like as soon as this makes impact. So that's kind of what's happening here. Now, if I focus on like why this is happening, I see like a particular subject, one subject. The subject that I'm seeing is an older male subject. They have like little to no hair on their head, and I can see their side profile. So like when they turn to the side, they have a decent sized nose. So just like imagine just like a big nose kind of like that, and then like the face, okay, and bald, and like this. Their eyes are kind of like slanted, but like not big eyes, but more just like evil, slanted looking, beady eyes. That's what we're gonna go with. They have like beady eyes and no hair, like I said, pale skin, male feel like they're older in age, definitely, and it almost feels like this subject is like far gone. You know, like he's on the ledge. He's jumping off. You can't stop him right now in his own mind. He's unstoppable. The subject feels just like very angry and hateful, and it feels like maybe a dictator of some sort, somebody who's just trying to like totally just destroy things and take over and take from. That's kind of how this subject is feeling right now. And then another thing that I'm seeing just around this subject is this very tall, regal-looking building. And it just looks like it's big like this, and maybe it has like big windows or big openings or corridors or something like that. Very basic building, as you can tell, but just think like really big, a fancy, like a bank or something, those big government buildings that you see. It looks very just like business is done here. And it feels like this subject is inside of this building, inside a room. They don't feel alone. They do feel like they have a couple other subjects with them, but they all feel like they kind of match his energy too, like they are bad influences on each other, and they're feeding into this frenzy that this man is doing. And yeah, you know, all I want to say is, again, it doesn't feel like there's really anyone left alive in like this area per se. It does feel like this item that was dropped on the ground completely destroys the whole area. This was not necessarily controlled by this guy, but he's the one who sent it out there. And it's all fueled by anger, hatred, greed, and just not being satisfied with what they have right now. So yeah, that's all I have for this target.
All right, Intysam, it's good to see you today, and we're doing a interview style, and we're having a session for Human News that will be for the month of March 2022. And Intysam, why don't you just take us through your session? What did you get as the news item that you saw for March 2022? Why don't we start with your page 4? What do you have going on at this event?
Okay, so for page 4, I was picking up an urban area. Surrounding the urban area is like sort of empty land, and there's a lot of structures, a lot of subjects, both male and female. And the thing that was standing out was energetics that was going along with like a large number of people, so a focused gathering around the energetics.
I see. I also see you have written down here there was a non-surface structure, one?
Yeah, I was only picking up one surface structure.
One non-surface structure. Okay, and also it was sort of dim
Yes.
lighting, urban environment, cold.
With snow,
Snow?
yeah,
Yeah.
snow or ice.
Yeah, I'm now looking at your sketch on your flash sketch for on page 5. And yeah, so you were picking up on stuff. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go on to your page 6. What are you getting there?
So page 6 is just digging deeper into page 5, exploring a little bit more. It's basically the same thing. So not a very big urban area, and a concentration of structure surrounded by empty land, along with the snow, and again, like energetics accompanied with like smoke, because I could like smell the smoke in the air. Yeah, and also loud voices. When I tuned into the sounds in the area, I was picking up like shouting, a lot of loud sounds.
That's interesting. So this is I know on your you had a deduction here of the Russian and Ukraine thing, so this is possibly related to that, but we don't really know. But let's go on to page 7, your flash sketch.
So page 7, it's depicting the urban area. There are some vehicles around, and then I was seeing quite a large number of subjects. It seemed like a crowd or a focused gathering, and in the middle of the subjects was this energetic event that was emitting heat and smoke.
Very interesting. Yeah, and there's cars or vehicles on either side, so it looks like this stuff is happening sometimes like in the streets.
Yeah, no, it was definitely like in the middle of the
Of an
urban center.
area, okay.
Urban
So
area.
what do you have on page 8?
It's more or less the same, just expounding a little bit because, you know, the deeper you go into the session, you're trying to get more and more information.
Yeah.
So, but it's pretty much the same thing. It's, yeah, the non-surface structure, the subjects, the movement from the subjects, energetics, yeah, cold temperatures and the loud noises. Those were the dominant elements in this session for sure.
Okay. And then going on with page 9, I see that adds a different element.
Yeah, so the element that was added on page 9 was more of the subjects, focus on the subject, that I could see something like a barricade, and I deducted that in future pages. But it's like a wall of subjects, and when I was like touching around them, I could feel they had objects on their arms that were somewhat flat and, rectangular.
So this is clearly crowd control type stuff.
Yeah.
And some protests of some type. Okay, now you on the next page, page 10, you're starting to go into more of a verbal description of things that you're seeing. What are you getting there?
Yeah, exactly. So, center of the target, it's an urban area, cold environment with snow-covered ground, many subjects moving about, and energetics that are producing heat and fire. And I also mentioned that other subjects are being controlled or restrained to a specific area.
Controlled or restrained. So the plot thickens. What do you have? How does it? What do you get on page 11 then, as we continue to go through this?
Page 11, I'm just probing more into the specific activity that's going on there,
Okay.
and this target had a lot of energy and activity that was coming from subjects, and there are subjects moving hastily about, moving back and forth near the energetic events, because that was like quite a main focus. Like it was drawing a lot of my attention in the session. So I could sense that some subjects had similar clothing and others had flat objects and standing about in line. And this is the page where I deducted like police and I deducted barriers or barricade.
I see. So you also have the idea of heat and fire. So there's that type of burning, protest-related stuff, and the police seem to be standing in line. If they're police, they may be military.
If they're police, yeah.
What do you have on page
Yeah.
11? Looks like you did some mind probe.
So
This is page 12.
to try and
Page
get
12,
the
I meant. I'm
event.
sorry.
Okay, yeah, page 12 is what's the event that's going on in this session. So the best way that I approach it is with a collective deep mind probe. And I could sense the subjects were feeding off of the rambunctious energy, like they're feeding off of each other's energy. And there's a lot of activity and energy. And it feels like most subjects, it was like two-part. Some subjects had purpose to be there, like they knew what they were doing there. Other subjects, not so much. Like, maybe I don't know, troublemakers, but that's a deduction, obviously, because it seemed like they didn't have that strong purpose to be there.
Fascinating. the idea of a purpose, of a sense of a purpose. Okay, well, what do you have? Let's go down to. We've covered the temperature and so on, so we don't need to go to the weather page. Let's go to your last flash sketch on page 15. What do we have there? It seems like a wide-angle view.
Yeah, so this is a bird's view of what is happening below, and it's just that urban area. You can clearly see the smoke, the energetic that's emitting smoke from within that urban area. And then, yeah, there's some foliage that was standing out, but for the most part, this seemed somewhat arid. Arid or barren. Maybe it's because of the snow on the ground that's giving it that kind of look.
Wow. Yeah, we have to obviously last month's time human news thing was spot on with regard to the Ukraine invasion, and this looks like, if it is the Ukraine thing, it looks like it's the consolidation month. It looks like the military. What I'm seeing in this session is this is like the aftermath of the invasion, where there's still protests and so on, but the whole situation continues in the month of March. I don't see in this session a lot of military activity like tanks and jets and helicopters and stuff. So this makes me think more of a post-invasion type of situation, more of an occupation process, the beginning of the occupation of Ukraine. If this is what it is, but that's what it sort of looks like. Anyway, it's
I mean, I thought of that too, but I thought honestly it could be anything.
Yeah.
With everything that's going on, I was like, that's why I deducted the Russia-Ukraine thing, but the more I went on, I was like, could be anything, honestly.
Yeah, but of course we have to think in terms of major events that could spill from month to month, and this Ukraine thing does look like it's going to spill into March big time.
Yeah, it's a big issue.
Yeah, so it's hard for us, even if it's a different event, it's hard for us to not, make those thoughts. All right, Intysam, thank you so much. Human News forecast event for the month of March 2022. Now we wait and see.
Thanks.
Hi everyone. To start off this target, I am noticing my first pass has just an extensive urban area. Looks kind of like this. And there are some taller structures over in this area. So we've got some tall structures over here. Everywhere else seems like it's mainly more moderate-sized structures around, but it's basically a dense in certain areas, but extensive urban area that comprises the first pass of this base target. I'm also noticing, I'll switch colors, I'm also noticing in one of these structures over here, a subject who is sort of behind an object, and this is somewhere inside of one of those structures in the urban area. So in my first pass, this is just the basic environment over here of what I'm seeing. Alright, so moving inside, I am seeing, well, these are the dimensions. I am seeing a subject right here, and he sort of seems like he's got a bit of a stern face on at the moment, and he's sort of barking out some sort of command. And I'm seeing the subject in sort of more formal attire, but I'll draw him out as a stick figure for simplicity right now. Okay, now here's this object that the subject is standing in front of, and so he's got one arm over here and another arm that's sort of like being pushed out in a pointing motion. So he's like, ah, blah, 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 and you see he's sort of exclaiming something over here. So it seems like there is another subject. I'll switch colors again. Another subject over here, and this subject is more so just at the entrance or a doorway, an opening in the room of sorts, and that entrance is right over there. And so the dimensions of the room sort of are as follows, sort of like this, sort of a boxy area. And I'm also seeing what I guess I could imagine maybe are like windows or something like that, but this sort of big, sort of visible area here where you can see, I'll keep switching colors around, the urban area in the backdrop behind this subject. So this is sort of the environment where that subject was that sort of seemed like the center of the target. So yeah, it's sort of this room is where I'm looking at, where this sort of subject and what we're looking at is going on. So subject over here exclaiming something, going like, ah, and then there's another subject over here just sort of at the entrance of a doorway. And so this is my other knowledge for my second pass through the target. Continuing on. All right, so zooming out and looking at another view of the urban area over here, I'm seeing an extensive amount of structures, once again, an extensive array of structures. I'm seeing one area in the center of this sort of dense urban area that looks like a circular space with a spire sticking out. So I'm just gonna draw it like that, and then sort of give it like two rings like that. So that's kind of what I'm seeing at the center right there. And moving around, we see just structures and structures and structures all around this urban area. I am also noting that there is a body of water over to the side over there that goes, the urban area really just goes right up to it. And yeah, and over here I'm seeing a bit of a regular topography, like a hill or maybe a small mountain, or maybe it's a bigger mountain, but it's just a mountainous, hilly looking feature off in that direction. And so yeah, so this is just another top-down perspective of the environment that we're looking at, where the target event is going to take place. So moving on to all of that. All right, so I am seeing a bunch of subjects that have this harder exterior attire on. So I'm just gonna try to draw them out best as I can right now. They have this stern face. There you go. Not an afro, it seems like hard headgear that's on top of the subject's head. And the subject seems to also just sort of seem quite padded and like it has an object in its hands like this. And they're in motion, and I say they because there's multiple subjects that really do look exactly like this one. So they multiple subjects running around in motion that look exactly like this guy. I'll just draw sort of stick figures as well, but just for time's sake. Ba-bum. Ba-bum. So a rather sizable group of these guys that all have these objects, linear or long objects in their hands, and they're all looking exactly like this one guy that I drew in more detail in front of us, and they're just running through the urban area. I'll just draw some structures around the side to set the scene a bit more, but yeah, it's just the urban areas all around them, and they are just running through it quite as a group, but with some speed to them. So there you go. All right, so yeah, this is a hurried group of armored up headgear, hard headgear wearing subjects. So yeah, with stern faces, you know, just like looking like that and just running through this environment. Okay, so let's move a little further towards the target event and see what happens, what occurs. All right, so the session sort of climaxes with the subject that we had with a stern face inside of, with the formal attire, the stern face. He was inside of a taller structure. He was, he's got sort of a different look on his face right now. It's sort of exacerbated, but it's he doesn't really seem like he's got a happy expression on his face, but his eyes are quite bug-eyed at the same time, and he's also yelling something, but he's yelling it at a different group of characters right now. So I'll just draw him out here. He's still behind that object, so right there. And sort of pointing out like that, like, ah, but this time there's another subject, and this might be the same subject in the doorway, but it's this subject seems to be cowering or in a fetal position on the ground, sort of just like this, and those armored, hard headgear wearing subjects, they are around both sides like this, and they have these long objects that are pointed right at this guy, and they have quite intense faces on right now. So quite intense faces. And also I'll just draw a little bit of something up here. I did see those subjects, these subjects right here with the armored headgear and this sort of subject here. I'll just draw a little bit more of the environment, you know, because they are in an indoors environment at this point. But these guys were basically, I'll draw it like right up here. They were spending a good bit of time just running upstairs to get to this guy. So this guy is in a place of some elevation, and it's a stairsable, if you can call that a word, a stairsable place. You can go up some stairs and get there, and they did not come just a few of them. There were a lot of similar guys, and they were all in a group, and they were all going upstairs, moving up this environment to get to this guy's environment. So I'm going to circle this. This is a separate thing. But all these guys with the hard headgear, they just ran up these stairs. They ran into a structure, ran up these stairs, got into this room where we see the formal attire subject, and then he gets quite hysterical and he starts yelling like, ah, like way more intensely than he was before when he was sort of speaking sternly to another individual. And I do see another individual sort of just like cowering like this, but he's sort of in the back. He's not really the focus of attention by any means. But these guys are the same guys over there, the same guys we saw in the middle of the urban area, sort of just running through places. And they just ran up the stairs. They got over here. They started pointing these longer objects at this guy. And he, at the event where that happens, he is incredibly hysterical at that moment. So this does conclude all the data that I got from this target. And yeah, this is what happened at the target event.
I have a lot of man-made land with structures on the surface. So there's a lot of movement happening here. Man-made movement, multidirectional. movement. I've got some peaks, and there's subjects all around, multiple subjects. There's a very central location. It seems to have a lot of man-made smells here, and energetics, smoke in the atmosphere. I'm hearing loud muffled sounds. I also hear sounds of a city. I've got foliage and a large structure here, very kind of wide, big structures, got kind of a double door look to it, some windows or transparent situations atop. There's a lot of movement back and forth and all around by subjects, high energy, again, very loud voices, a lot of chatter. There's some confusion. There is some confusion. There is pain. It's very, very complex. I'm seeing something that I can't tell. It looks kind of the way a shopping center or a complex looks, or a factory, the way that it has that central tall structure and then different pathways out here. I smell smoking and burning, possibly the smell of gas. I can't quite make that one out. A lot of chaotic movement via subjects. There's sounds of loud non-surface structures, hovering. They're not like zooming. They have a hovering effect. I hear sounds of engines. And again, there's a lot of tall structures here. If you check my my second visual here, you'll see kind of a curved situation. I can't tell if that is a structure or land. And then what looks like or feels like a train, I'm going to deduct a train, a very fast moving structure that seems to be central to this location here. There are foliage and structures, a land water type of thing, and a natural land type of thing here. But also it looks, I cannot tell if this is part of the land or if this is like a structure-esque cave type thing. There are structures about here, different structures atop this as well. There's movement by structure, very fast, kinetic, one direction. There movement, loud, movement by subjects, smoke, energetics, multidirectional, kinetic, energetics, and movement here. This does not seem like a good thing. It appears very bad. It's very cool to moderate to cool temperature here. Feels kind of springy-ish, like it wants to be, but still kind of chilly. Definite jacket. There's whatever this is on an elevated surface. There is some foliage. It's very moist here. Some elements. Some of the elements here are not on the base surface. There are some off base surface things. Alongside, again, the non-surface structures. The texture is very, I'm feeling something grassy, foliage-like, but I also feel, let me bring this up so I don't have to bend all the way down. I also feel metallic, wooden, rocky, metal, man-made and natural. There are subjects outside on base surface and inside the moving structure. I also see colors of brown, black, green, yellow. There's a lot of life here. There are also things happening to the life, if that makes sense. The life is in disarray within themselves and within the environment around them. There's chaos all around. Subjects seem to be being harmed by each other. There's a trampling effect. Feels like excuse me. There are two different things that I'm feeling within this target. On one hand, it feels like, and this is a huge deduction, obviously I cannot say that this is what it is. It feels like a train that has been moved or that is under attack or maybe exploding. Deduction, huge deduction. You know, something wrong with a train. And then on another hand, it's like a chaotic situation that have authorities involved and they are not gaining control of the situation. It seems to be making that situation worse. And I'm being pulled in both of these directions simultaneously, both being chaotic. Like I said, one being a situation with a structure, with the structure, something wrong with it, and the other with the people. I don't know if they're connected or if they're two separate things. Both deductions. I am getting the feeling of opposing sides to things. There's also a survival of the fittest type of thing. Like there's some people helping others, and then there's other people like, screw you, I'm helping myself. Like I'm helping myself, fend for yourself. There's running, I can't tell if they're fighting. It's like riot, and it's split down the center. It's like riot versus train disaster, deductions. Or train disaster caused riot, or the riot caused train disaster. Anyway, all deductions. None of that is definite here. It's just something that I'm feeling very hard. There's danger. There is some anger and hatred. There is something wants this to stop. I feel that from whomever I just came in contact with here. Tired, fed up. This is just the energy I get. This is why I'm getting pulled in two different directions here. We shall see.
For my first visual, I have a base surface with level topography. I have an extensive body of water with some natural land nearby that feels fairly dry, and there's some foliage nearby, like a moderate amount of foliage here. And for my next visual, I also have some man-made structures, but there's multiple structures that kind of have these odd shapes, like they're not completely put together. Like it could be like it's not really completed for construction, like it, or it could be that these structures have been destroyed and they just look incomplete, like they're exposed. So for my next visual, I have, like zooming out a bit, I have multiple of these kind of very incomplete structures, and it's kind of like paths going past these structures, and I have movement of subjects on the base surface. It seems most of these vehicles with subjects, they have multiple subjects in them, and it's kind of a back and forth movement going past these structures. So when I look at this area, like with all the kind of relative locations, I have this body of water here, then there's like land, natural land, there's these structures, incomplete structures, and then like subjects moving past the structures into this, it's like a, have a focused gathering of subjects, a crowd of subjects past these a crowd of subjects moving past these incomplete structures. There's a vehicle. So there's subjects crowding over here. So looking more into this area of crowded subjects, I have, it's like another type of structure with, it's not an enclosed structure. There's like these kind of separate areas, but it's still open at one side, so subjects can easily move like in and out of this area. So I have subjects like towards the very back of this structure, which feels kind of makeshift. It's not very stable, not suitable to have this large of a crowd of subjects here, but I have a crowd that's specifically gathering towards one section of this structure. Like there's other subjects around, but there's this particular area that seems to be bringing in the most subjects, and I have a lot of energy and activity from these subjects, moving, talking, like shouting sounds specifically from this area of the structure. So for my next visual, I'm seeing the subjects that are in this like crowded area. They're like so they're all gathering here, and over time more of them are getting into these vehicles, and heading past these incomplete structures and getting closer to the body of water. And like I'm seeing there's man-made structures in the water with subjects inside them, and there's a lot of movement of the subjects kind of back and forth. Most of them seem to be going in one direction though, but I also have some subjects on the base surface near the water and have a good amount, like there's multiple boats still on land as more subjects are coming towards the water. So looking back at this crowd of subjects and like probing into the activity that is going on with them, what I see in this like makeshift structure is I have like 3 main male subjects that there's one main subject and there's 2 male subjects that seem pretty similar that are nearby. And so this main subject, he looks like he's, I'd say around his 50s, somewhat nicely dressed, and he's kind of like he's giving the subjects here in the crowd some type of news, and it seems like good news, like the subjects are like there's a lot of activity from these subjects, like they're excited, like they're kind of hopeful, looking forward to something, and that is leading them to move towards the water. So it feels like this main older male subject has given these crowd of subjects near this makeshift structure, it's like he's given them some news that's making them excited or hopeful, and that's maybe leading them to leave this area, this structure, and for most of them to start moving towards the water, towards these boats. Okay. And that is what I have.
Okay, so let's draw some conclusions from these data. March 2022 is going to be an interesting month, knowing what we know is going on in the world right now. All of these sessions seem to be describing things that would be compatible with what we would expect to happen in Ukraine if this war continues through March. These sessions seem to suggest that the fighting will not end quickly. Moreover, some of these data seem to suggest that an effort will be made to arrest someone using military force, and we wonder if that could be the president of Ukraine, President Zelensky. We will just have to wait and see how this all turns out for the month of March 2022. So, that is it for our March 2022 edition of Farsight's Human News, the news before it happens. Thank you for watching. Please also join us next month in April 2022 for another look into the future of Earth humans. Also, on FarsightPrime.com, be sure to look for our next major mysteries project, the Super Soldiers of Series, our live stream events, and the Farsight ET News, the monthly intelligence briefing, as well as new Farsight economic forecasts. And remember, we do Farsight at Farsight. Farsight is our style of remote viewing, and vocabulary is important in these changing times. I'm Aziz Brown of Farsight. Stay ahead of the curve. Let the mainstream fade in the dust. Be there now.